everyone, we have to talk about beautiful Italy again and about the potential supervolcano that is there, threatening more than 3 million people in this area, the area of Naples that is located between Vesuvius and Campi Flegrei. So is Campi Flegrei a ticking time bomb? Look at the list of the recent earthquakes. It keeps coming, it doesn't die down. But now Vesuvius is coming to the equation. We're seeing more Vesuvius earthquakes. I also don't like that too much. You know, Naples is a wonderful, beautiful city. It's full of life and culture. It's built on the slopes of Vesuvius, of the volcano Vesuvius. That's a protagonist of one of the most famous eruptions in history, that of Pompeii and Herculaneum. When they were destroyed, the two cities were completely buried by ashes and by what came out of the volcano. Two important cities of the Roman Empire. And today, almost 6 million people live in proximity of Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius and around the city of Naples. So it is always surprising to see a satellite image of the city of Naples, because basically you see the magnitude of Vesuvius. Vesuvius stands out as a crater, and the proximity to the population, but so is Campi Flegrei. You just don't see it that much, right? Because it has a different architecture, and the situation in Naples is complicated because of that, because there is this presence of another large volcano, a potential supervolcano, Campi Flegrei, burning fields. It's located just the opposite of Vesuvius, and it occupies the northwest of the city of Naples. And a volcanic eruption in the Naples region would not only affect the millions of people that live there in Italy, the Italian inhabitants, it would also affect Europe greatly, with exponential consequences in the economic and in human spheres, food production, sunlight being blocked, little ice ages that could spread across the globe. So Campi Flegrei, the burning fields, are a supervolcano. That means a type of volcano that has a magma chamber that is 1,000 times larger than the magma chamber of a conventional volcano. And that's why Campi Flegrei has the largest and most voluminous volcanic eruptions on Earth. So that volcano's caldera, that exists of 24 craters, spans 100 kilometers, even in the water in the port of Pozzuoli, was formed 39,000 years ago, guys. And it is considered, regarding its geology, to be one of the largest eruptions in history. And it has even been linked to being the cause of the extinction of the Homo Neanderthal. But there's some that say this is the case, some say it's not 100% confirmed. But all these theories aside, Campi Flegrei and its 24 craters, and the action that could come from these craters could be compared to a meteorite falling to Earth and causing enormous destruction, right? So this is bad, really, really bad. So that's why, if you follow my channel and you have seen what has been happening at Campi Flegrei and to Campi Flegrei in the recent month, but also in the recent years, basically since 2005, when this bradyseism activity has started, this is very concerning. And now it is confirmed that magma has risen to the surface to a very shallow depth of only 3.9 kilometers. So this has been confirmed in basically 2 studies. If you want to learn more about this, all the diagrams and more data and how this looks, check out my video about this. It's in the end screen, but it's also in my volcanic activity in Italy playlist. It's really, really interesting. So that's why it is so important to know what is going on at Campi Flegrei's caldera. The most active caldera is now the Solfatara with the hot fumaroles, these steam vents where the hot gases are coming out. And the last study that I just made this recent video about confirmed that it's not fluids or gas that is pushing to the surface and lifting up the land, causing this land rise. It's magma. And that is bad because now that magma is at such shallow depth, it doesn't have to go very far to reach the surface. And we know that the Earth's crust has lost so much stability since the 1980s when the magma also was trying to reach the surface, but the cap rock layer kept it from doing so. That very cap rock layer has only a third of its strength that it has now. So Campi Flegrei is dangerous, really dangerous. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone or to fearmonger, but you know, anytime you have a large restless caldera volcano with over 3 million people living within 19 miles distance, 30 kilometers, but also living right on top of it because they weren't aware that this is a volcano, you should be nervous. There is no way around it. And scientists are very nervous. Some of them have already said in April, I would evacuate everyone, right? Because with that many people, imagine it would be like kind of moving Yellowstone to the outskirts of Tampa or LA or Denver or San Diego. And, you know, you would want to know as much as you can about what is going on deep below where your garden and home is, right? And also you want to know what signs could mean that an eruption might be coming soon. And Campi Flegrei is showing these signs. It is. There's no way around it. Despite the fact that, of course, authorities are trying to word this carefully, but we can see that they're more and more alerted and preparing evacuation plans. Still, they don't want to hurt the economy there. They don't want to hurt the tourism industry, and they don't want real estate prices to crash because nobody wants to live on a volcano that can blow at any time. So now we also have to add Vesuvius to the whole mess. And we have to add the fact that Campi Flegrei could erupt inside the water and send a 30-meter, 100-feet tsunami wave towards the coast of Naples, right? And then is Vesuvius and Campi Flegrei, are they connected in a way that the shaking of one could trigger the other one? I've also made a video about that. It's very interesting, guys. I don't know. It's really complicated. And Vesuvius and Campi Flegrei, they are both products of the complicated tectonic locations or qualities of Italy. So there's the African plate that is subjecting or sliding under the European plate, and that's creating small amounts of magma underneath the base of the crust. So this melting that is happening there, that is feeding the volcanoes of Italy, and there's many. I mean, you've probably seen my reports about Etna erupting all the time, Stromboli, then we have a massive underwater volcano, Marsili, oh my God, and there's so many others, right? So the volcanoes in Italy are fed by this, including Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius, right? And all the eruptions that Campi Flegrei has produced in the past, they were always some of the largest and explosive eruptions that Europe has seen in the past 50,000 years. And the experts are now saying the magma that is in shallow depth is already in an explosive state. So if it comes out, it's going with a boom, which leaves you almost no warning time in the worst case scenario. 36,000 years ago, they called this eruption the Campanian ignimbrite. It dumped almost 70 cubic kilometers of volcanic debris across the continent. And I'm saying continent, not Italy. And then we had the 15,000-year-old eruption. It's called the Neapolitan yellow tuff eruption. That has added another 40 cubic kilometers on top of the other stuff from previous eruptions. In 1538, there was an eruption. A new cinder cone had been formed. It was named Monte Nuovo, and you still see it today. It's just called New Mountain, right? Pretty easy name. Oh, this just was made by the volcano, Monte Nuovo, New Mountain. But this eruption was tiny compared to the big explosions that had happened in the past. But still, even that small eruption has still rained volcanic bombs, so to speak, matters and ash on the region, and it has produced lava flows as well. So even a small eruption is a huge problem for millions and millions of people. So since then, Campi Flegrei hasn't erupted anymore, but it has gone through various periods of unrest, and we're in a very big period of unrest right now. And at some time, everything is weakening by these land rising, land subsiding, land rising. We know the crust has lost 2/3 of its stability, which makes an eruption easier, right? So how much stress is too much? That is the big question. So if you are someone that's living in Pozzuoli, that little fishing town, it's a city of over 350,000 people. That city more or less exists inside the caldera of Campi Flegrei. Probably or very likely you would like to know when the next eruption will happen, but that isn't that simple, right? And it already has happened that twice over the past 73 years of restlessness, thousands of people were evacuated from Pozzuoli because there were sufficient signs of an eruption. So now, are they more careful? Do they prevent the people from having to go through this again? Because it looks a little bit more dangerous now than it was in the past, in my opinion, right? Twice they had this evacuation and then nothing happened, right? Which can, of course, erode the public's trust of emergency management or volcanic monitoring agencies. But since we had that 4.4 earthquake in May that was really rattling Pozzuoli, and people were running on the streets and they were upset, there wasn't enough help coming, they had to spend the nights in tents, they are scared. But despite that fact, they did an emergency rehearsal. Only 30 people showed up. So it is a very, very difficult situation. What we know is that volcanoes that are reawakening, and that's what the scientists are saying, if they reawaken after a long dormant phase, they must rupture the crust before magma can erupt. But that crust is thinner or more brittle than before. That is the problem. Because magma takes always the path of least resistance in order to reach the surface. It's looking for the weakest point. And without a pathway to eruption, the magma can stall or get stored and then solidify. But, but even in doing so, it will add stress as the magma body inflates or gases accumulate within the magma, right? This is what happened in the 1980s. And that's why the stress is increased and the crust is now only 1/3 of the strength. So if enough stress builds up, cracks can open, fissures can open. Look at Iceland. If you follow my channel, you see what's happening there. And that could lead to magma moving rapidly to the surface. If the surface has deep going cracks where the magma can find the way of least resistance, and then you have yourself an eruption. And at Campi Flegrei, we know that the magma is stored at various levels underneath the calderas. And it rises from its formation in the mantle to eventually form multiple ponds. And what is now confirmed, the closest pond is only 3.9 kilometers beneath the surface. They thought before that that would be 8 kilometers, which would be a little bit harder for the magma to grind its way up, but it's only 3.9. That is very shallow, guys. So since the 1950s, the Campi Flegrei has seen over 13 feet, probably 15 to 20 feet right now, over 4 meters of uplift with some subsidence phases in between. And then it has also experienced over 30,000 tectonic volcanic earthquakes that mostly occurred since 1982. And if stress continues, the crust will then go from responding elastic, with elasticity and returning back to its original state, to it will respond with inelasticity. It means not returning to its original shape. If I have that hairband, I can stretch it, it goes back. I can stretch it, it goes back. But if it gets older and I do this many times, it will stay wide and it won't do anymore, right? It loses the elasticity. And if I then stretch it any further, it will tear apart, and that's when we see an eruption. So if we have an inelastic response, after that comes the failure, which means the crust breaks, and then it could potentially produce conduits for magma to reach the surface. In other words, eruption, guys, right? So that's why there is a study out where they have looked at all these data and have looked at all the stress that was felt in the crust beneath the caldera. And so they have reached the conclusion that Campi Flegrei may have reached the point of inelastic response. Let that sink in. This is bad. And that since 1984, it has entered the bulk failure phase. Here is the picture of 1984. Basically, that was a magma intrusion. Magma was on its way, but didn't make it to the surface. Then we know since then, the caprock layer that you see here has lost its stability. It only has a third of its strength. And now look at this picture here. I made a full video about this. Check this out. Now the magma is confirmed to be at a shallow depth. It has already risen to 3.9 kilometers. The theories before were, it's the hydrothermal system. It's fluids, it's hot gases. It's not magma. It is magma. So it has reached the inelastic response and the bulk failure. That means that cracks are forming within the crust. That's why many scientists have said Campi Flegrei is reaching its breaking point. And I can't help it, guys, that sounds super scary and super concerning. So what these scientists are saying, that the initial rupturing of the crust, basically 2 miles, roughly 3 kilometers down underground, began in 1984, but then halted. That's this graphic again, right? But recent changes suggest that the rupturing has resumed in 2020, and since then it's gradually increasing. And that's why this is so concerning. And it's reaching ever closer to the surface. It's coming closer and closer. The focus of the deformation is beneath the Solfatara and the Peschiarelli area. This is the center where we also see a lot of the epicenters of the earthquakes. So they're thinking that could be the most likely potential location of any new eruption, and that would be catastrophic for Naples, for the greater Naples area, for Pozzuoli, and even the other areas. I mean, look at the map. Yeah, when you ask the scientists then, well, does this mean that an eruption is imminent at Campi Flegrei? You get the usual answer. The short answer is no. And then they're saying, well, we could see three potential scenarios. So first, the crust could establish a new state of fluid flow and all this restlessness could end with a magma chamber that shallow. The second possibility is that the fracturing could come and go, meaning the surface could rise and fall on a regular base. Well, that's what it's doing, right? Right now it's really rising. But they compare it to Yellowstone, right? Could act a little bit like Yellowstone. And a third option, the uplift continues and so does the fracturing, and an eruption could occur. So we've just heard the rise or like the speed of the land rise at the moment has gone back from 2 centimeters a month to 1 centimeter a month. So starting mid-April, it was doubling from 1 centimeters to 2 centimeters, but it's not subsiding. It is still rising, still building up pressure. So what they're basically saying, the sticky wicket is the timing, right? The question is not if, the question is when. How long is the time between this phase of bulk failure and then any potential eruption? That's the tricky question. And then we have to think about what might be the signs of an imminent eruption that are the signs that are coming with this fracturing. If you follow my channel and you see what I'm reporting about Iceland, basically the eruptions there have began in November with magma intrusion, and then we have eruptions almost every 4 to 6 weeks. So now they know, oh, land is rising that much, magma chambers filling up again, and then we see some earthquake swarms. So they know the signs. They can predict eruptions better. They say, yeah, in the next 3 weeks we will see an eruption. Oh, now it's really, but Campi Flegrei isn't erupting on a regular basis. I mean, thankfully. So they really don't have many data that they can confirm because the past eruptions are so long ago. There are not really big scientific records on this like we have in Iceland, right? So in Iceland, the timing is a little bit more easy to calculate. But here at Campi Flegrei, you just can't, right? I mean, the biggest problem in understanding how massive these caldera eruptions happen is also the biggest piece of luck. We have experienced very few eruptions of giant calderas across human history, thankfully, right? In our lifetime, in our parents' lifetime, grandparents' lifetime, we haven't seen Yellowstone or Campi Flegrei erupt. So what each change means now, especially with our refined ability to monitor the most minute differences in seismicity, land surface and gas emissions, is challenging to ascertain. Even in Yellowstone, I mean, in May, there was an explosion, right? Yellowstone, there just recently was this explosion that nobody was expecting, right? It's not easy. And last year there was a new hydrothermal feature, like probably a new hot spring or geyser that has opened near Old Faithful in the Yellowstone caldera. So this started with small explosions almost directly underneath a boardwalk in the national park. And yeah, this is new. So does this mean that Yellowstone is heating up, that Yellowstone is heading towards an eruption? Scientists are saying very much no, but it does show how features and how certain activity can change these restless calderas very, very quickly. So what is the conclusion of this study and of all the other studies? The scientists are saying a new study like this does not change the state of any volcano. No, it doesn't. It just gives us information about the state. It does allow us to have a better understanding of what might be happening. But we already knew that Campi Flegrei is a highly hazardous volcano. And whether we are closer to an eruption or not is still unknown, but what I take from it is we should still prepare as if one is coming. I conclude this video with this. I hope you liked it. Leave it a like. Check out my playlists. Brand new stuff about the Titan hearings, the Bayesian, mind-blowing, Campi Flegrei, Vesuvius. I think you should subscribe to my channel, guys, and watch all these videos. I'm really trying hard to give you the best information that's out there and find the most interesting topic for you guys. And I would love for you to join my channel as a member, become a member of my channel, and get behind the scenes videos and stuff like that. So link is in the description, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. I see you soon.